Good morning, young Groms. It is December 31st, the last day of 2023, and we woke up super early here in Manhattan to watch the sunrise. Normally comes up like somewhere over there. There is basically 4 crazy things that happened to me this year, and the first one is that I took step 1. Med school has been like the whole theme of this channel, surfing during med school and like trying to make life happen while I'm like flooded and with like trying to learn information and trying to become a doctor. But I was supposed to take step 1 before the end of my 2nd year, or before my 3rd year started. And I took it super late. I took it towards the end of my 3rd year in February, and that was wild. Like, I never really passed a practice test before. I just had to go for it, and I studied so much. Ultimately, when I took the test, I actually felt super confident. And all right, guys, so yeah, I passed. It like kind of doesn't feel real. And the second big thing that happened to me this year was I went to Iceland. Christina and I got on a plane 2 days after I took step and scored like the most epic waves of my life. And it really opened up something inside of me that I can do this. Like, I can be like a cold weather surf explorer. Like, I don't even know what that title is, but like, it's always been my dream after watching like Sandcastles in the Sky, Billabong Adventure Division, No Country for Cold Men. Like, all these movies got me so stoked to go to Iceland, and then we actually did it. Like, it actually happened, and we actually scored the best waves of my life. And that experience of like surfing a new wave with no one out in perfect ruler edge conditions, like, it just was the most motivating thing that ever happened to me in my life. And it really like, it reminded me and like strengthened what I want to do with my life. I want to surf, adventure, have fun, enjoy life. And yeah, I'm like so pumped on that session. Like, that whole day, surfed 3 times for 2 hours each, and like the 6-hour drive to get there in the morning, like rolling up, and it looked like it was flat, and then we'd go out there and have the best session of my life, and I'm just like alone in this beautiful like blue cold water, and like there's these peaking mountains all around me, and then like this crazy fjord, and like it was like nowhere I've ever been. It felt like I was on the moon, somewhere like totally different, and I just loved it so much. And I'm like, okay, now I know what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to surf and explore and like have a good time, and this is the way to do it. I don't necessarily even think that it's the cold water of it. Like, it could have been in warm water, you know, like it could have been anywhere in the world. But the fact that I was just like rolling up on somewhere totally new. This is my break.
That's a wave.
That's a sick wave. Wait, that's what
we've been looking for.
Wait. You know, no crazy line at the point break. No like 40, 50 guys out with bad vibes. Like, one other guy, Jacob, paddled out, and right away we were friends and like catching waves. And like, that's what I love about surfing, is like this unique cold water surfing culture that you really only find in places where the water is, you know, below 50 degrees and there can be snow on the ground and stuff. At that moment, Iceland was the best experience that ever happened to me. Peak life experience times 1,000,000. Like, I don't even know if I'll be able to top that in my life and have a better day than that, but I'm okay with that. Like, that was such a good thing. I'm just so glad it's happened. And like, I'm not complacent, but like, whenever I'm having a bad day, I can just remember that that happened, that I got to surf a perfect wave I've never surfed before with no one out. It was such a perfect wave, like covered in these snow-capped mountains, and then this like deep skinny fjord bay. It was just so cool. It's so cool. And like, yeah, that's just a peak life experience. So like, no matter what happens to me in life from here forward, I'm just stoked that I got to do that. So Iceland was the second craziest thing, the second major thing that happened to me this year. And the third major thing that happened to me happened in June. Like, pretty quick turnaround. I was on my surgery rotation in March, just studying. April, was kind of bummed after coming back from Iceland and like realizing that like normal life isn't like that every day. But I kept pushing, and it wasn't even like this crazy hard work determination or anything crazy, but I just kind of kept chipping away. I had to take step 2, and I was so scared because everyone had been studying for step 2 when I was studying for step 1, and I felt like I only had like 3 months to take this test, and it was even like more important than step 1 because I was actually getting a grade for this. So yeah, I was like so worried about step 2, and like I was really concerned, obviously, and I just kind of kept going. Like I kept studying every day, and I maybe didn't study like 10 hours every day, but I did the right thing when I studied. I took practice problems. Those were hard. I didn't just watch videos about the content or like study my notes. I truly learned to study and take practice questions. And another thing where I didn't really like do well on a practice test, but I took step 2. I took step 2 yesterday. It's kind of crazy. It was super hard, and I don't know, I think it's like 50-50 whether I passed or failed. And then I was actually on one of my audition rotations when I got the grade back, and I was like, I didn't even think that was my grade at first. Like I got a 235, which is pretty good for what I was getting on my practice tests. It's around the average of test takers. It's not like a super high score, but I was so stoked on getting that grade. So like I was really happy that all came together, and I knew like the specialty that I wanted. Like I think with that score I could make something happen. And you know, I feel like I'm so much more than my score. Like I knew my extracurriculars and like the adventures I've been on in my life, like my cumulative life experience I've had would take me further on interviews than just a board score. But I needed like what you could consider a good score to get me there. All right, and the fourth and final crazy thing and like best thing that happened to me in 2023 was going to surf Mavericks. I learned about Mavericks when I was super young, when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and my uncles and my dad, we loved the movies Step Into Liquid and Riding Giants. Both of them detailed like Peter Mel, Jeff Clark, all the legends surfing Mavericks, and like how dangerous it was, how sharky it was, and like the hold downs, and like just how wild this wave was. And I've always wanted to go. As you guys know, in 2021 I went to Jaws and got skunked, and I was just like, I spent all my money, all my savings, like more than like the Iceland trip, more than any trip ever. So I was like, had no money left, and I was, you know, I'd slowly built it back up through like working and stuff. But yeah, this trip was pretty much a fluke. It was crazy. I wasn't even going there as a surf trip. I was actually really wanted to visit Christina's brothers at Stanford, and I was so excited to make this happen. And you know, definitely couldn't have afforded a strike mission to like opening day at Mavericks. But what happened is, luckily, because it was like a family trip, you know, weeks before, my parents helped me out to book the flight. In all honesty, like mom and dad, I couldn't have done it without you. And I just happened to be going to San Francisco to go to Stanford. And the day we were flying in, as it got closer, ended up being the opening day at Mavericks. And I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta go. Like, so I was like, I gotta bring my gun. And like, I've been waiting for this opportunity my whole life. And like, it just kind of happened to work out. So yeah, I put my 10.6 on the plane. You know, I had my float suit. I had like a whole crazy thing happen at the airport, and like we almost missed our flight. I was the last person on the plane, but we flew to San Francisco, got out of the plane, we got a rental car, drove to Mavericks, straight to Mavericks off the plane. Forgot to wax my board. It had some wax on it, luckily. And we were late. We were so late there. We had to park in like the Pillar Point like fishing village and like fishing town or whatever. It's like this super industrial town, and then walk like 2 miles to get to Mavericks. Like we couldn't even park in like the spectators parking lot. Got to the beach. I actually met this other cool dude, Sean, on the beach. It was his first time surfing there too. We paddled out, took an hour, and then I was pretty much just out there for like 3 hours trying to find a wave. I was so scared, but so pumped at the same time. Like I was just like, I was pushing through like chop after like getting caught inside on like these white waters. And then I finally kind of punched through, and like the whole time I was paddling out for like 45 minutes, I was just caught in like white water, like gross water, like haze. And then it's finally, when I punched through, it opened up to like this deep blue Pacific water, and it was so beautiful. And I was just out the back, like seeing Peter Mel from like Riding Giants and Step Into Liquid drop into bombs. Jeff Clark was out there on a boat. Like it was just so crazy. It was like, you know, definitely like one of the coolest days of my life. And the craziest thing is I brought my GoPro out to get cool shots of other surfers and to maybe like prove that I was out there. And then I forgot the SD card. So I realized, I was like, this thing's worthless. I threw the GoPro in my wetsuit, and I was like, all right, you're not out here to take selfies. You're out here to catch a bomb. So I waited and I waited and I tried to get in position, and the set scared me and I paddled over them, and like all this crazy stuff happened. And then I paddled for a wave, missed it. And I remember this older Japanese guy who said, "It's gotta look like it's breaking on your back if you want to catch one." And I was like, all right. So the second wave of the set came and I was way off on the shoulder, but it looked like it was about to break on my back. So I just put my head down, I paddled, I popped up, I kind of blacked out that like transition. Yeah, and I was just like, popped up, got in the position, feet were in the wax, and I just went straight down. And it was just the coolest, like fastest I'd gone on a surfboard. And then that wave was so much more than just the drop, because you know, I kind of straightened out, it like kind of, the water kind of surged up behind me, and then I like, you know, stepped forward on the nose of the board, and then it doubled up again to like this crazy like double overhead, felt like triple overhead moment. And yeah, and then it kept running. It went from like triple overhead to double overhead to overhead to head high to waist high, and I was on the wave for like a minute, and like it was just such this like surreal, like crazy experience. It was something so wild to catch that first wave. It's like something you could never buy. It's literally priceless. Like, it is truly just this weird memory that I have, that I happened to like catch a wave at Mavericks, and I feel like I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was, and I went for it. And yeah, I'm just so stoked that it happened. Those are the 4 crazy things that happened to me. I passed step 1. I surfed in Iceland, my dream wave, the best day of my life. I passed step 2. Continued on like my path to become a doctor, and surf Mavericks for the first time, all in the same year. Like, so crazy. What a year. 2023, wrapping it up today. This was the last sunrise this morning. I hope 2024 is just half as good, but right now I'm just stoked, living in the moment, and as always, we will see you on the next swell.